What's up, Sooner fans? First off, you can see the comments, questions area down there. Make sure you guys are dropping your comments, your questions, anything you got. Thanks for our viewers and subscribers who are on here. We really appreciate all of you guys that have been commenting and liking the videos the last month. You guys have been killing it on that. We appreciate it so much. I see Brian there, Lori, a lot of you guys on here. Thanks so much for your chats and your comments. And guys, there's a whole lot to talk about. I really want to talk a lot about, maybe some of the scrimmage yesterday and just being about 3 weeks away from opening day. But obviously we probably need to start with, I think the big question everyone's talking about, if you've been on Twitter, is the Williams Nwaneri commitment tomorrow. We can say some things about that, but let's just open it up, guys.
Yeah, I think, 3 p.m. tomorrow is when Nwaneri, number 3 player in the class overall, according to 247 Sports. That is when he's going to be making his announcement and his commitment. And right now it seems like it's coming down to Oklahoma, Missouri. This is one that I think you can all expect to come down to in the afternoon tomorrow, I think, before Nwaneri actually ends up making a decision. But yeah, I mean, Oklahoma, Missouri battle. Again, number 1 defensive lineman in the class, according to 247 Sports. And if the Sooners were to land Nwaneri, he would be their highest rate, or the second highest rated recruit Oklahoma has landed of all time, only behind the one and only Adrian Peterson. So, and especially to have him at the defensive line position, it would be massive. But yeah, I do think Oklahoma is still in a good position here. Long time until 3 o'clock tomorrow. So they're going to have their ability to make the pushes they need to make. And I'm still feeling good about Oklahoma here.
Yeah, it's another 5-star recruitment. And this recruitment's kind of going the way everyone thought it would. There was kind of throughout the whole process, there's been schools emerging. Tennessee was one. Oregon kind of had their moment. Georgia especially had their rise with that visit he took to Athens a month ago or so. But there was 2 constants, OU and Mizzou. Those 2 teams were always there, and now we're about just under 20 hours away from this commitment. I think about 18 hours away, and it's down to these 2 schools. It's pretty much everything you're seeing now. You saw all the crystal balls today from the national guys going in favor of Mizzou, but this, again, until 3 o'clock tomorrow, this recruitment's not over.
Yeah, and before we continue, I just want to make sure our viewers, we got Brendan and Taylor with us here tonight. They've begun writing for Sooner Surge, and maybe you're not recognize their face, but this is Brendan and Taylor. Brendan just put the article out about do stars really matter? I think it's an appropriate time for that, especially with some 5 stars that the Sooners are recruiting. But so we want to say welcome to Brendan and Taylor for being on here joining us tonight. Just wanted our viewers to know kind of them, because they may be new to some of our viewers. But yeah, guys, I'm going to continue to say that culture wins out. And I think Brent Venables, culture, honesty. I know some people think, that's cheesy nowadays. It's actually speaking. It's carrying a lot of weight. We've heard it from other recruits that it carries weight. The sole mission is carrying weight. And I think that's an important part really to all of this.
Yeah, and I know some of the comments in there about, what do we know that's any different than what we've heard? I would just say that, kind of like bouncing off what Hunter said, is this is still the night before, okay? And I know that the commitment's at 3 tomorrow, and I've seen the crystal balls, but Will Fong's, I think, been wrong twice already this year.
Mm-hmm.
And if you read why he put the crystal ball out, there wasn't a whole lot of info there. So
yeah, that description there was wild. Honestly.
He said Mizzou is a rising program.
And he was wrong last year with another 5-star defensive lineman.
Yeah.
I'm sure everyone remembers
He was wrong a week ago with a 5-star defensive lineman.
Yeah, he's been wrong this year twice.
Colin Simmons. Colin Simmons to LSU.
I see what Dalton says here. How everyone's melting down, kind of have some faith.
Mhm.
And I would agree with that. Look, although maybe there's a lot of people panicking, I may have even been one of those. But really, when you think about it, again, Brent Venables, all the coaches, I just still have a little faith in family and even I have faith in 18-year-old guys that maybe they can see their future in front of them at a place like OU compared to the future in front of them, maybe a place like Missouri, where maybe you get some money, but in the end, all this other thing wins out. And I'm going to have faith in that Brent Venables is going to preach that constantly until 3:00 tomorrow. And I'm going to have faith that wins out.
Yeah, I agree with what you're saying because when you look at it, I mean, yes, Oklahoma, first of all, they're going to offer a bag. They're going to offer, Nwaneri is going to have the ability to get good money at Oklahoma. But even if Missouri's NIL package is worth more than Oklahoma's, the thing is, going in the first round is worth more than any NIL package in college. Like the NFL contract is the most important thing. So I think it's a long-term thing when you look at it. But yeah, Oklahoma, I mean, this one would definitely be huge. And I think, like Dalton said about having faith in the comments, I mean, that's exactly right. You got to trust McGill Chavis. You got to trust Todd Bates. You got to trust Brent Venables. And ultimately, hope that they can seal the deal tomorrow.
And I think even if the pick, isn't us tomorrow, like this recruitment 1,000% isn't over because Mizzou's roster just flat out isn't good. Their ability to win in the SEC is not going to be high. They have a decently tough schedule this year. They got to play Georgia. Mizzou or not Mizzou? Yeah, Mizzou. I don't know why Mizzou is just like their ceiling, in my opinion, is about 5-7, 6-6. And I think they have to reach that ceiling for Eli Drinkwitz and his staff to stay at Mizzou. And I think if they're not there, why would, Will stay committed to Missouri? It all depends, in my opinion, on how they do this season and how we do this season.
Yeah, I think what Dalton was saying is the reason the OU fans freak out, especially on Twitter and stuff, is OU's not used to being in 5-star defensive lineman recruits. I mean, let's be honest. This 5-star deep, especially number one guy in the country, this is how they always go most of the time is you're down to the wire, you're fighting with another school. We saw it last year with DJ Hicks. I think this is going to be the norm going forward it's almost like I kind of compare it to NFL in a little bit with the free agency. These defensive linemen guys, they're the cream of the crop as far as all the position players. They're kind of the guys everybody wants, especially in the SEC. And I think it's also OU fans have PTSD from DJ Hicks. And when was the last time OU got a 5-star defensive lineman that was really panned out? I mean, you could say RJ, I think Alexander, but you go all the way back to probably Gerald McCoy before you had a really stud.
Yeah, and you brought up the 5-star defensive lineman point. Anyone on Twitter, I'm sure, saw Hayes Fawcett's tweet today about how many will Oklahoma land out of the 3 5-stars. David Stone, Will Nwaneri, and Don McKinley. So I'm curious to everyone in the comment section and everyone on here, how many of those 3 do you think Oklahoma's gonna land? Do you think, they're gonna go 1 for 3, 2 for 3, 3 for 3? Let us know. And yeah.
Hey, and Brian, appreciate your comments always. You're always positive about the Sooner Surge. We appreciate it. Always commenting on here. You're right. Oklahoma's gonna have a great season. And here's what's interesting, I think. OU, let's say they get to the playoff. A Nwaneri committing to Missouri right now, that could change things with, OU getting to a playoff and then maybe struggling. And I see the comment about getting paid, Jimmy, about getting paid to play for Missouri. But actually, these NIL deals are structured where you could actually take the money and never play it down there. Right, guys?
It depends on how the collective is set up on payments, all that stuff.
Up front, though, he could take some up front.
Again, it depends. I'm not 100% sure if these kids are signing contracts or not, because if a contract's signed, then obviously odds are you're going to have to pay back that money, even if you take it thinking you can take it and run.
Well, I'm also going to say that, let's say they don't land Nwaneri. You guys got you got Stone, you got Okoye, you got Knight. There's plenty of other fish out there that combined with what OU is going to be able to get. So it would be massive to land this guy tomorrow, to have him committed, because we know what a Venables. a Venables commitment compared to someone else's commitment in another program is not the same. I say it again. Venables' commitments, the way he's kind of set it up, they carry weight a lot more. The credibility that he's doing with this culture and soul mission, and he's playing no bones about it. You commit, you're here. I like that about BV.
Yeah, you mentioned the soul mission, and a lot of guys like that. Of the players I've talked to, there's it's a consensus among them that the soul mission is not being done elsewhere besides Clemson. Clemson has it. That's where BV kind of got the idea for it, but it holds weight to him. The life after football truly means a lot to a lot of these players. I know Jimmy's talking about Danny Okoye. That's another one. When I talk to Danny, soul mission, that's the thing, that and family atmosphere. That's what he told me about a lot. That article is on SoonerSearch.com if you guys have not checked that out yet. But again, Danny was over and over, every time we were talking about OU in the conversation, it was soul mission, family atmosphere. Just the coaches treat you like they treat their wife and kids, not like it's a business like some programs do.
And Danny Okoye, guys, I've said it. You've probably heard me say it. I think the upside on Danny Okoye, I think he's peaking later than some of these other guys. I think he may be the best of them all when it's all said and done. Just my personal opinion. The guy's a freak, and I think he may be better than them all.
And I know a lot of people think you're wild for saying that, but you're really not far off. Like, you look at what Danny Okoye does. You want to talk about, like, it's like a creative player in a video game. Like, that's Danny Okoye. He's 6'5", 240, runs like a 4.6, does backflips, deadlifts 750. I mean, I can go on and on and on. I mean, come on, he could maybe be a college level punter. He can punt too. Like, he can literally do it all. The coach at Noah called him a Swiss Army knife, and that's really what he is. The upside with him is really as high as anyone.
Yeah, he left Georgia off his top.
Yeah, I was very shocked about that. Again, when I talked to him, I was getting the vibe it was going to be all SEC top 6. Obviously, OU and Texas are in the conference as of July 1st of 2024, and they were left off. I was a little shocked. He said it was like just like Bama. He was like, you go there, you go to the league. Like, that's what's going to happen. And they're left off. So it's interesting. Colorado making that cut. They're kind of over Georgia in my mind on that one as Dion, man. That's really impressive to make a top 6 of the schools that Danny was kind of cutting it down to, in my mind.
Well, you also, I know Taylor just did the commitment of Jaden Nickens, in-state guy. Look, there's a lot of, I know our viewers, maybe there's a lot that live in the Oklahoma area, but Danny Okoye is another one. You guys can get out there and watch these guys on Friday nights because they're playing right around here in the backyard. So I know Noah's got an interesting schedule. They can kind of go on both sides of the state. Of course, Nickens is more on the west side, but it is great to be landing in-state guys once again. Okay, that's a great thing.
Yeah. Danny Okoye, week 1, I believe, at Kiefer for the 918 listeners. Really not that far of a drive, depending on where you live in the Tulsa area. And then for the 405 listeners, he'll be in Oklahoma City at least twice. I know I'll be making it out there to at least one of those games to watch him play. But the 405, especially, the talent that's out there now, it's just insane. Carl Albert's the number 1 team in the state. They have probably, 5 or 6 Power 5 guys over the next couple of years. Like, it's insane. And then you also have just the other schools in the area. You got Westmore with Michael Patterson McDonald. You got Millwood with Jaden Nickens. Like, this whole the Oklahoma OK Preps is really on the rise. 2025 is probably going to be the best OK Preps class we've had in a very long time.
Yeah, no, I mean it is absolutely ridiculous, and like how you like mentioned, Westmore, you have Millwood, Washington,
Yeah,
they produced
yeah,
Cooper Alexander, Nate Roberts, top 70 player in the country, one of the best tight ends in the country, and it's crazy because it's not coming from the Bixby's of Oklahoma that are the powerhouses. I mean, Nate Roberts and Jaden Nickens, two top 100 players in the country, both from 2A high schools in Oklahoma. It's just kind of ridiculous to see. And like Carl Albert, that's a 5A school. It's not a 6A school. And they have an absolutely loaded roster. 2025 is going to be a special year for Oklahoma, just Oklahoma OK Preps in general. And I mean, I cannot wait to watch. That's the year I graduate. I know I'm going to be watching a lot of football. The Carl Albert Bishop McGinnis game is looking really nice to go to this year.
And
that's always a good one, rivalry game there. But you mentioned Roberts. He might be flipping.
Flip watch.
We got all those predictions. I know Josh McClish put in one for Soonerscoop.com. Kevin Sperry, man, he's working it. The workouts are working.
Yeah.
Sperry's like the best recruiter on staff right now.
100%. What Kevin Sperry is doing, like, and usually I know it's way too early to tell. He's only, I don't even know.
Yeah, and then to Taylor's point that he just made about, guys like that from Washington, like, Nate Roberts. You also look at another guy who Oklahoma's in for in the 2025 class. It's CJ Nixon out of Weatherford, Oklahoma. He's top 40 nationally and is the number 5 defensive end in the class right now, according to 247 Sports. I mean, and then you got 2024 commit Josh Isosa. So, the Oklahoma class is really going to be special in 25. And, like y'all mentioned, Kevin Sperry has been doing a great job recruiting you. This week, Jaden Nickens, Elijah Thomas, and potentially the flip with Nate Roberts. So, Sperry's been doing great, man. That's what you want in your QB when he's in the boat this early.
BB Schwartz says Hicks again, and you gotta admit if Nwaneri is to commit to University of Missouri, that's got to be what's on Sooner fans' mind is the Hicks situation, because that was the deal. Kind of Todd Bates thought they had him, and of course he goes to A&M, and so I think that's what people are going to be dreaming about or having nightmares about it if he's to choose Missouri. What would be the difference in those two? Because we know Hicks went there for the money, pretty much, right?
Yeah. I think the biggest difference is A&M is honestly a much better program than Missouri. Obviously, they're not great. They're middle of the pack in the SEC, but they're better than only winning 4 to 5 games a year, like what's currently happening at Missouri. A&M's a school that's going to win 8 to 10 pretty much every year, and that's pretty much their ceiling. So it's interesting. The comparison's obviously going to be there. Again, I think we kind of need to hold off on that. Just wait for it to happen, not immediately go there. We got to let David Hicks go. We got to get over that recruitment as a fan base.
Hey, Hunter, I'm with you 100% on that. But at the same time, here's my thing is, to me, this Nwaneri recruitment, now it's not over yet. We, like you said, we got tomorrow morning, and OU's going to make a push there and everything. But if they do not land Nwaneri, I think it hurts way worse than Hicks. And it's not even close, in my opinion. You're moving to the SEC, and you have the chance to get this guy, number 1 defensive player in the country, and he's this close to your backyard, and your competition is Missouri. If you lose this battle, especially with the relationships they have and his teammates that have already committed to OU, if you lose this, to me, this is a big-time blow.
And again, that's very true, but we got to kind of talk about the NIL laws that are in Missouri. Like, that's an advantage for them to be able to land their local stars that OU doesn't. They can't match that type of a thing that the laws that are there as of
I
right now.
disagree. I disagree in one aspect. Okay. Yeah, they have laws in place where he can get paid before December. I understand what you're saying. But you're talking OU or Missouri. OU can, it's like Alabama or Texas Tech. I mean, come on.
Money
Right?
talks, man.
I'm
Texas
sorry.
Tech.
That's no comparison money wise, my opinion. You're in the SEC now. I mean, you gotta pony up, I think.
Yeah, it's one thing losing to an SEC school. It's another thing losing out, as Jimmy says, to Missouri, because they're even a former Big 8 program that was basically one that just got thrashed by OU year after year. So I agree. Losing out would be unacceptable. I think OU can match whatever. That's why I think losing out would be unacceptable. If you're just saying the guys get, well, yeah, because honestly, let's do the scales, relationships. We think OU probably wins that out. Okay. Future. We think OU wins that. We think OU can match the money. Why?
Distance
the only
to
reason
home.
you would go to, I mean, what's the
Yeah.
reason?
The
It's-
location. Location's the other is the one thing they have. It's a little closer.
A little, not much.
Hunter, let me
4
ask you a
hours
question.
probably.
Hunter, let me ask you a
Nothing
question.
today.
Okay. Let me give you a scenario. Say I live in the Tulsa area. I can go to Tulsa, or I can drive to, I don't
Dallas.
know. Where's that?
Dallas, Texas.
Yeah, it's not that far to go be a Texas Longhorn. I'm going to choose
Okay.
TU. I'm not comparing Missouri to TU.
No,
by any means. They're
okay,
better.
stop right there, Jay. Because you're saying Tulsa and then Austin, Texas. Like, do you
Hey.
realize how far that is, one, to begin with? Because I think you were originally trying to go like a 4 or 5
I'm just
hour
saying,
drive,
Hunter.
and now you're going to a
Hunter,
like
it's unacceptable.
6, 7.
Hey, it's unacceptable, in my opinion, when this is the number one defensive player and you got the development that Todd Bates and Chavis have done to put players in the NFL. I mean, to me, you got to win this battle.
Hey, I like what Lori's comment is, his mommy making him stay home. Look, that may be, I know, wasn't there thoughts, I don't even want to get into details about other things maybe during the recruitment, but this is what I got to bring up on that thing. Kevin Sperry, dude, whole family moved here. Like, how committed is that guy? Whole family moved to you know what I mean?
Sperry is a one of one. The Sperry family,
I agree, but
as a whole, like I've never seen that type of a deal happen. Again, I kind of got cut out due to mic issues earlier on Kevin Sperry. I know it's way too early to say he's only going to be a junior in high school, but like what he's able to do on the relationships wise, like how he was the first one to commit. He committed pretty much a year earlier than what the 24 class started out with their first commit. And what he's doing, getting the guys there. I mean, he's about to flip a top 70 player, most likely, to OU, and moving to Carl Albert. Like, this guy, depending on what goes on in the future of the OU quarterback room, he might start very, very early solely because of everything he has been able to do on the recruiting side. And again, being in Carl Albert, he's close to home, close to OU, only 20 minutes away.
I'm not going to – I mean, here's the thing. 18-year-old kid, he can go wherever he wants, and I have more power to wherever he picks to go. I'm not at all – if he wants to go play in Missouri, I wish him the best. I really do. Like, if he grew up a Missouri fan, he wants to play there as close to home, all for it, okay? But we don't know the whole story, but – here's the thing. This is only year 2 of NIL. It's only going to go this way. It's only going to go up.
Jay,
it's going to be outrageous in a few years.
That's why, and I like Dalton's comment here because Kevin Sperry's the real deal. And there's no question he's committed. And one thing that I'm just going to, maybe I'm naive as all get out. Okay. Maybe I'm the naive one here, but I think as Brian says, when it talks about, I really wish it had nothing to do with money, guys. I think Venables is preaching that it's not about money. I honestly, maybe that's naive of me. I see Venables going in there and preaching what he's true to. And I still think he wants guys committed to that mission and that culture. And I think in the end, OU's going to win out because of that. It's different. It stands out than what everyone else is preaching.
I think this
Who does what
recruitment
Kevin Sperry
has. I think this recruitment has so many shades of like Peyton Bowen, and in the sense that I do not believe that right now this recruitment is in Will's hands completely. I think if it was Will's choice tomorrow, he is 100% a Sooner. But then you think in like you factor in all the other factors like proximity to home and being able to make money as soon as 3 weeks, September 1st. So the ability to be just probably an hour long, 2 hour, maybe 3 hour drive, whatever it is, to go play at Missouri, be close to home rather than their parents having to make, a pretty lengthy trip to Norman, 4.5 hours, 5. Not the worst, like it's not, here to Eugene, Oregon, but it's just one of those things where it's like, it's a little bit more convenient and the ability to make money so early. I really do believe that this is not fully in his hands, but I do think by the end of it, shades of Peyton Bowen, this is going to be Will's choice and where Will wants to go to college, and I believe that's OU.
Hey, what are your tomorrow at 3:00? Taylor, where's he committing? Where are you thinking?
50-50, but I'm gonna trust in Parker. OU.
What about you guys?
I'm saying Missouri.
OU.
Yeah, I'm gonna stick with OU. Me and Brody have been pretty outspoken on OU. At least for me, I'm going to ride it out. I know a lot of people on the OU side are doing that. They're just going to ride out what they said from the beginning and just stick with the guns.
I'm willing to be wrong, but I trust Parker Thune.
Hey, look,
Jeremy, did you say Missouri?
Yeah, I did. Hey, I'm the father of 3 sons. Unfortunately, my wife and I we're height vertically challenged, so we won't ever have any stud football players come to this household, but they are going to be pretty good cross-country runners. And I would never I hope I would never guilt my kid into going somewhere. It is sad that that's what some of this gets to. But Brian's exactly right. It works for Patty. What he's saying is it is the culture. Patty's culture wins out over anything else. Now, it helps when you're also a dominant program, as OU is going to be in football as well coming up. But that helps a lot. But that's not the reason. That's not the only reason these ladies are coming to play for OU. Culture wins out.
Yeah,
culture over money.
Let me ask you a question.
Jeremy, you may say culture over money, but I don't know. So there's a lot of 17-year-old, 18-year-old kids who wouldn't say that. But
Brody,
my point is, for BV, he's got the culture. We all know it. The culture is there. Now, just combining the culture with the NIL, that's really all you need is the culture and the NIL combined. You got both those. What more can you want? But I think it does work for Patty. At the same time, that doesn't mean it's going to work for BV when,
Agreed.
I don't know. Softball NIL and football NIL, OU's probably at the very top of all the, softball NIL. Like, they're probably way up there. Whereas now you got schools like A&M and Oregon who, they got all types of money to put down on kids.
It's totally different, though, because softball, let's face it, you're going to college and football to go to the NFL.
Yeah.
In softball, you're going to play 4 years at a school or transfer. There's not a whole lot of professional after that. So there's a little difference. I mean, a big difference in that opinion, I think, because you're going to softball then to almost like a minor league yourself in the NFL. But I will ask you this. What part of the past OU defense does that play in a role to these recruits? Knowing where OU's been in the past and how bad they've been defensively, does that make any difference to these recruits, you think?
It did at one point. Danny Okoye was one that said that. He was like, and then he realized, wait, this is one bad year, and this isn't going to happen again. Like, it was kind of going to happen with the coaching changes that they had and the roster turnover. The bad year was there was nothing you could do to stop it. And so these guys know what the success was for Brent Venables, for Todd Bates, for Miguel Chavis at Clemson. They are very well aware of the guys they have put in the league, the development they've had, and there's no other expectation than for it to be the same thing at OU. It just obviously it's going to take time, and this year is really a very good opportunity for it to start showing the signs to the recruits, so that question couldn't even come up in the back of their mind of issues on if this defense is going to improve.
I mean, just look at. I mean, it's simply just looking at the stats. Like his first year at Oklahoma, originally way back then, bad defense, and then the next year it got much better, but it wasn't at its peak. And then it started getting great as his recruiting classes developed and he got in his system and his system was worked in. And then it happened at Clemson. We saw a terrible defense his first year. We saw much better the second year, but not the peak. And then we just saw absolute dominance. I don't know why I said Brian Brzee first, but Brian Brzee, Dexter Lawrence, Isaiah Simmons, just off the top of my head. And those guys are NFL level talents that are, dominating today. You look at Dexter Lawrence, one of the highest paid defensive tackles in the entire league. This is the type of development that Todd Bates and Brent Venables can offer, but you cannot expect it in the first year. He didn't have a single recruiting class that he had the entire year to work with come in. Now he does. Are a lot of them going to play? No. We will see Bowen on the field. We will see PG on the field. But what's the biggest difference is that there's going to be more guys that have been in the system for a year. Bowman has been in the system. Stutzman has been in the system. Ethan Downs has been in the system. These guys that actually have experience, whereas last year it was like everybody's a freshman. Well, now you do have guys that understand.
And I don't know if you see the chats coming in here, the comments, but Hunter, I don't know if you want to disclose anything you've heard on money-wise. I know OU is offered probably I don't really know if I feel comfortable even saying, but
I don't know.
Money's been offered, but I also think that what Cameron Buchanan said is really what I've been saying too, is that it's not the most important thing right here. Yeah. It's not the most important thing for Venables. And that's why I honestly think that the culture will win out in the end. Again, I may be the most naive person out there. Okay. But to me, if I'm a parent, and maybe parents don't care about that, but if I'm a parent, that will speak and carry on more. Okay.
And obviously you can't say it for every parent. Everyone's different, but I know kind of just overwhelming majority, the sole mission matters. I mean, that's always something that people have wanted. They've wanted something like what's going on at OU with the sole mission, like what's going on at Clemson with, I think they call it something Paul. I don't remember the exact name, to where life after football is a priority, because football does not last forever. Playing football is great, but it's going to end at some point. And if you're not set up for success after football, then none of it really matters. And that's really what OU's doing with the sole mission on how they're turning boys, 18-year-old kids into men with the sole mission.
That's what, I think that's exactly right. Taylor, you getting ready to say something?
Yeah, I was just going to preface the thing is with BV is that, the program, they're going to give kids money. Obviously they're going to give these 5-star D linemen that the team needs. They're going to give them money, but he's not going to go break the bank and give, X player, $1 million, and then X player who's, 6 spots lower in the rankings, 200,000. He's not going to ruin the locker room over one person. And I think that that's what people want him to do. But that's when you get a situation like Texas A&M, and everybody is getting ridiculous money, whereas in comparison to the players that may be just as good, except they just weren't as high profile, so they're getting half the money.
I get what you're saying on that. The locker room issues, that's obviously a possibility on something like that. I do think it is a little different with the stuff OU kind of has in place, that the money's going to happen. Obviously, I don't know the exact amounts, but I don't think everyone's getting the same amount of money. I mean, I could be wrong on that. Anyhow, there's going to be differences, but I think you mentioned the A&M, the stuff that goes on there. That's I think it's been pretty well known that the locker room there, just in general, regardless if money wasn't a problem starter, is weak to begin with. Like
Yeah. Well,
the culture there, it's not there. They kind of just let everyone run wild, and you look at OU, like that's not happening anymore. That all of that is gone. Like that everything that's going on, you feel kind of just a shift in vibes around the team and all of that. That something is being built that's going to be very special.
it's going to be special. It's going to be long term, and like you said, Taylor, you're creating a monster if you start paying guys separately, different things. It's just not a good situation. And I promise you, what's going to be happening is up till 3 o'clock, it's going to be the money again on one side, and all the staff of OU is going to be in there coming, throwing this, say, hey, Soul Mission, Brent Venables say, we want you to make the right decision. Here's what we're about. We're not changing it. We are not going to change like the chaff in the wind, okay? That's not who they are. That's not what they're going to do. And look, we could talk all night about Williams Nwaneri and the recruiting, but I'd love to get, like Brian talked about, the defense that excites him. Let's talk about some things about the guys that are there right now. Yep. They had a scrimmage yesterday. Exciting. As we're about 3 weeks till the season starts. I kind of want to transition into the current roster and what's on there now.
Yeah, no, we can worry all we want about, the recruiting, but it's football season, The practices have started, the pads are on. We're 3 weeks away from kickoff.
Right.
It's football season. I can worry about recruiting all day, all I want, but in the end, it doesn't matter what happens in a year if the team is bad this season again, because it will all change. If we get a guy like Dom McKinley to commit now, if we go 6-7 again, or whatever, 6-6, 5-7, whatever, if we have another bad season, those guys decommit. But the same topic can be brought up if we go 10-2, maybe we get like a flip here and there, like a Peyton Pierce. But yeah, no, it's football season. The recruiting is, obviously it's going to be a big talking issue, but I mean, dude, I'm so excited for this team. I just want to. Who do you guys have for this season being your biggest breakout star on the defense specifically?
I'm going with Justin Harrington. I know we've had the talk before about Justin Harrington in the offseason, and he looks the part, but he hasn't really shown it a whole lot on the field. But I do think this is the year we see massive strides from him, and he's going to turn out to me to be a stud on the defense and I think he's going to be a pretty high draft pick. I think he's going to have that good of a year. We all know he was a highly recruited kid, when he came in, and he was defensive back. Now you got him in the cheetah, so he can cover like a corner, but he's also physical enough, and he can run like the wind. I mean, this guy is a real deal. I think it was mainly about him learning the defense, and I think he's got it now. So I think that's my guy who I'm looking for to have a huge year.
And I think I'm the one of the guys that's been very hesitant on Justin Harrington because we've been burned by him before as Sooner fans. But I will agree with what Jay said there. He definitely has – the cheetah position was created for a guy like Justin Harrington, okay? That position was not in Alex Grinch's scheme. It's in BV's scheme, and he's a perfect guy for it. But what I really see – if you haven't seen our video on Sooner Surge on the YouTube with the depth chart, go check it out, because we were having a hard time, honestly, trying to figure out the 2 deep. And we left guys off the 2 deep that we were just like, wow, how are they not on the 2 deep? That's the depth. There's going to be guys chomping at the bit on the sideline, guys. They're just going to be like chomping at the bit to get in the game because of the depth that's on this. And Cameron brings up Reggie Pearson. Guys, Sooner fans don't have to look very far. They remember the hits Reggie Pearson put on him.
Yep.
We know the guy can hit, okay? And there's talk of him may not even be starting.
Yeah.
Think about that.
And Reggie Pearson is one that could be in that topic, like Cameron said, for the breakout player, because he's experienced. He's played a whole lot of college football. He knows what he's doing, and he's coming to OU in a Brent Venables defense and already being impressive throughout spring, summer, fall camp so far. For a guy that is just now getting here, he's a fifth-year senior, I believe, or he's for sure out of eligibility, I believe, after this year. Maybe the COVID year gives him something else. But Reggie Pearson has won the leadership that he has. Again, he's played a lot of college football. He's adapting to this defensive scheme, and he's really in position to have a massive year for OU.
Yeah, he lit up Eric Gray. Wasn't it Eric Gray?
Yeah, I think it was.
Yeah, but he also lit up DG.
Yeah, the DG one is the one that everyone remembers. That was did not like seeing that as an OU fan.
No,
I just
Pearson,
have glimpses of Rocky Kalmus, Teddy Lehman with Kanik and Stutzman.
Yeah.
I mean, they're actually, no offense to Teddy Lehman, I think they're both more athletic than both those guys.
Teddy was quite the athlete, man.
He had some speed.
The whole thing about how he got his offer, they didn't believe he could run a 4.3, and then he does.
Jeremy, you did not just say Teddy Lehman.
What?
Come on, athletic. He was a stud.
He was a stud.
Ran like a 4.4.
Jared Kanik played quarterback, Jay.
I understand
like
what you're saying.
4.4.
Come on.
And Jay, Teddy Lehman was an absolute beast as a linebacker. I didn't say he's a better linebacker. I said athleticism.
Fair.
I think what's like the biggest, was one of the biggest noticeable differences outside of like pure athleticism in the room is that quality of depth. Like if you think back 3 years ago, there's almost no debate that a guy like, maybe even like RSJ or like Kobe McKenzie or Reggie Pearson are, maybe not even on the field. Whereas this year it's like, man, Kobe McKenzie is probably not a starter. Reggie Pearson might not be a starter. RSJ might not even be on the 2-deep. And like you think back literally 3 or 4 years ago, guys like that are absolutely playing, but this year it's not. That linebacker room, we've seen, there was an article posted, I believe, on 247, or maybe it was OU Insider, that's talking how good Connor Neer is. And people forget about Connor Neer. This guy is, he's been on a national championship team. That guy can play. You mix him with Kanik, you mix him with Stutzman, you mix him with McKenzie, Kip Lewis Carter. Like that linebacker room is absolutely ridiculous depth-wise in comparison to the last 10 years of OU football.
Yeah, think about last year. David Agwebu, guys, is still somewhere getting oxygen. I mean, the guy played. How many plays did that dude play? Oh my!
It was like 100 snaps a game. Him and
Deshaun White couldn't get off the field.
Yeah, Deshaun White was another one. They were all out there. That this year it's not going to happen. Danny Stutzman's not going to. I don't know. Did he lead the country in snaps played? For sure, the conference. It might have been the country too.
He was up there.
Sure. He was up there for sure, and that's not going to be happening this year. We have the competitive depth. Like just the competitive depth. Those are the two words talked about the most right now. Everyone is saying it. Any video you watch, competitive depth. Any press conference, competitive depth.
Yep.
And that's what makes me so excited for this team. Like I mean, obviously I'm a lot younger than you guys, RJ and Jerem, but I don't remember a season where looking at the roster where it's like we're talking about the 2-deep, and yesterday we talked about guys. There was a lot of differences in everyone's picks on that. Wait, they're not on the 2-deep because there's only 2 spots there. Like it's just so exciting for this year.
Well, I don't know a time when we could say that on the defensive side, Jay. I mean, we go back offensively. They've had so much depth for years, even when Sam Bradford and those guys were here. But I'm going to talk about someone who I think maybe has been under talked about. And look, Emmett Jones, we know, is unbelievable. Okay, but I think the Jay Valai effect, we're going to start to see a big difference in the cornerbacks. And Woody Washington, guys, I don't know what his ceiling is, but he's going to hit it this year, I think.
He's
going to have a tremendous year.
No, Woody is absolutely just a dog. I think the other cornerback, though, is definitely up for debate. Honestly, what are your guys' opinions on that? I think Gentry is opposite of him, but there's guys that think, maybe it's Dolby, even like a Jaden Rowe. And honestly, not week 1, but late in the year, if Josiah Wagner, maybe not a starter, but if he's playing considerable amount of snaps, I wouldn't be surprised at all. Josiah Wagner
Taylor,
is a certified dog.
I actually have Josiah Wagner as my starter on game 1 on that side. Gentry as a backup.
Hey,
that's what I did in my 2 deep.
Jeremy. I'm close to that. I think Gentry's going to start. I think he's I think he's going to start. But I do think what Taylor said, Josiah's going to push. I think push hard. He's just that physical pit bull like defensive back that OU needs. And when you have the depth and you have that, you can rotate some of these guys in. And that was probably my biggest complaint from last season. And I obviously looking back at it now, they didn't have the depth. They didn't have any good players really, but I wish they would have played some like Robert Spears Jennings. Yeah. He should have definitely been playing more last year, period. Jaron Kinnick, he should have definitely been playing more last year. So I think there was some of that where they didn't play guys, the youngsters enough. And go to the offensive side, look at it too with some of the receivers. They didn't nearly play enough to get to kind of grow some competition there and develop some of those guys. But I think this year would be totally different.
Yeah, I mean, you look back literally last year at the starting lineup, and it's like Justin Broyles this season probably isn't even in contention to start. And literally last season, he played every single snap, it seemed like. And I know that, Venables came out and said, like, I should have played those younger guys. Because you look at Kinnick, that one game that we saw him considerably amount on the field, I mean, BV said that he didn't know what he was doing. But you know what? He was really good at not knowing what he was doing. He had so many tackles. He made a difference, and he didn't know what he was doing, So it's moments like that where it's like, in that game versus Texas, why didn't, anybody but Davis Bevel play quarterback? Why didn't Jaden Gibson see the field? Why didn't Nick Anderson see the field? Why didn't Kinnick see the field? Why didn't Nick Evers see the field? It's moments like that where I'm glad the BV came to his senses and was like, that was on me. I should have played those guys. It was, a misstep. And I think that we'll see that this year.
Yeah, you mentioned Jaron Kinnick not knowing how to play the position. Like, again, if that's what it looks like for someone to not know how to play the position, what's it going to look like when he does know how to play the position? And it's starting to feel like that this is the year he's kind of figuring it out now. Him and Stutzman, that relationship they have, and like just Danny Stutzman in general has really taken on the role of the leader. He is the leader of this, probably the entire team, for sure the defensive side of the ball, the linebacker room as a whole. He has stepped up. He's still the same old Danny Stutzman. He has a lot of fun while he's doing it. But maturity-wise, on knowledge, teaching, all that, Danny Stutzman's really taken a lot of leaps. Offseason.
He hasn't. Jimmy mentions Kip Lewis, and Lewis Carter's another one. One thing that really is great about the linebacker room is they're physical. Stutzman and Kinnick are physical. These guys can, as Dalton says, hard hitters, playmakers, right, and things like that. But you also have the speed. They can cover, and that's kind of been a knock on some of the backers that OU's had is maybe they're one or the other. You hear the term in basketball, two-way players, and I think that could also be kind of used here with they can guard the run, they can help in the run and the pass. That's something they haven't really had. So I'm excited about the depth and the speed and the physicality, all of those things with the linebackers. And you know what's funny? No one's really talking about Ted Roof. It's amazing how no one really is bashing Ted Roof yet, but the players are a little different. We'll see if people start. There's another guy, Shane Whittier. I forgot about him. I don't know. Is he going to see the field at all? I mean,
I think if my two deep right now would be, I'd say my two deep in linebacker is, however you want to put it, Stutzman, Kinnick, two starting, and then I say Kobe and Connor Neer as the other linebacker. Connor Neer, dude, that kid can hit. He has had experience, and he knows what it's like to win. Whittier just doesn't stay on the field really, and he hasn't really got the opportunity to shine, and it's unfortunate. But now it's even worse for him because you have everybody that you had in the linebacker room last year. Add 1 year of experience, plus you're throwing in two absolute dogs in Lewis Carter and Samuel Mosigo, and don't count out Phil Picciotti. That dude wants to put his nose in any single person that's carrying the football. Phil Picciotti is, in my opinion, the most underrated 3-star in the country. I am so excited for Phil Picciotti to see the field.
Yeah, and hey, one guy we didn't mention in the defensive backfield, Vickers.
Yeah,
Vickers is going to he's going to be tremendous at OU. I know the other day he had an interception, but in practice or whatever. But he's another guy that's going to be really good seatbelt. But then on the offensive side, man, guys, you talk about the improvements the defense made. Offense, guys, I think it's going to be loads better than last year.
Yeah, the receiver room. I mean, you look at the scrimmage yesterday. There's several big plays that sounded like Andrell Anthony had good scrimmage, and the receiver room is super deep. Gabriel has to be better, and I think he will be. Okay, I think he's improved his strength, his arm strength, and the main thing I'm looking for, and it sounds like the O-line's been pretty solid from what I've heard. But the main thing I'm looking for with DG is patience in the pocket. I don't want him to check down as much. I want him to stay in the pocket more. He tended last year to get outside and dump it down for short gains. I really want him to take more risks, but to do that, you got to be able to sit in the pocket a little longer. So that's what I'm hoping to see with DG.
Throws in between the numbers. Middle of the field,
Yes.
Attack it. Austin Stogner is going to open that up. Obviously, I love B-Will, but Stogner is just a different breed. And I think, according to Brandon Drum, like we saw, I think in the scrimmage, Stogner had like 2 receptions, but one of them, big play, 20 yards over the middle. We need to see that more this season. It just opens up the offense more. And I think that that's something that, the addition of Emmett Jones is going to bring to this offense, because everyone wants to talk about Jones as a recruiter. But as a wide receiver coach, he knows what he's doing. So, Levy didn't use that middle of the field, and maybe there wasn't much of a push from LD Washington to use that middle of the field. But I think Emmett Jones is going to implement some routes that, get those safeties, looking over the middle and get Stogner down the middle on a safety blanket. You can't just use outside the numbers, especially with DG. I love DG. He's a very serviceable quarterback, but he's not good enough as a quarterback for the defense to know, okay, well, we can basically count out the middle of the field. Like, they're not going to throw it there. So, you have to give him options. You can't just, have him being, looking at Stoops off the line, and if Stoops isn't open, throw it away. It's things like that just can't happen this year.
Yeah, he can't be predictable. That's really how it was. It was last year. He was pretty predictable. Kind of was going to go with his first read, or not go with it at all. There wasn't really. He's kind of got to. I think he needs to open up, take more risk. Obviously, smart risk, but you got to have that confidence, and I think he's really starting to get that. I kind of feel a different Dylan Gabriel than what we saw last year. The confidence. I know he was mic'd up one day in practice. I think he's grown as a leader as well this offseason. And again, we mentioned the depth on the defensive side of the ball, the depth in the quarterback room. You have Jackson Arnold right there behind him. He's a 5-star quarterback. He is going to push him to be his best self for Dylan Gabriel. So having someone to push him in practice daily should make Dylan Gabriel a lot better of a quarterback this year.
Yeah, and you put, as Cameron says there, I didn't feel like he was comfortable last year. And you put a true serum in Jeff Lebby. Jeff Lebby's not going to say this, but Jeff Lebby does not like the fact that DG was not looking down the middle of the field. I mean, his offense, the play action, they are great out of play action. Jeff Lebby runs great play action, but when you're dumping down and not really looking at what the play action is there for, I mean, that had to be talked about in the offseason. I think it was. Of course, this has been scrimmages and this has been practices, but everything attests that Dylan Gabriel seems to be way more comfortable taking shots down the field. He's got the weapons, so there's got to be a trust value there. You got the best safety valve in America in Austin Stogner, probably. So there's just a lot there that he has, and I think he's got to rely on that. And Jeff Levy, look, I was critical last year of some things, but again, I think some of that was DG and not Jeff Levy. So that's what I would say with that.
Yeah, I mean, you just have to look at the depth of that quarterback room last year. Obviously, we saw it in the Texas game. Nobody wants to talk about it ever again, rightfully so. But this year, he's just freed up more. You know, he's going to be able to use his legs more because he doesn't have to worry that, okay, if I'm injured, we lose. And that was honestly just that was it last year. If he was injured, we were going to lose. I mean, you know, Davis Bevel is just he's not Oklahoma caliber to be the starting quarterback. Whereas this year, Jackson Arnold, I mean, my Twitter account is literally based off of Jackson Arnold. This dude is the truth. He is very, very good at football, and he is going to be incredible whenever he steps into the spotlight. But I think that people need to pump the brakes on that. Dylan Gabriel is absolutely serviceable, and if he makes it through the entire year as a starter, that's a good thing. That means that he has improved incredibly. Because if DG stays at a standstill and does not improve, Jackson Arnold is going to take his spot.
Well, if you look at last year, Taylor, I go back to the year. Nebraska has a 60-yard scamper for a TD, okay? Then he had the injuries, right? And he wasn't himself as far as getting out of the pocket and running with it. He then had the layoff before the bowl game, and he came out in that game a little different like he was at the beginning of the year. I think the injury played a huge role in his mind with the concussion and things and the hits. So I hope we get someone who's going to maybe take off more and, you know, that scrambling ability, because he's definitely serviceable in that area as well. So I think that's something to really keep an eye on.
Yeah, and to me, the biggest thing with Gabriel that I was frustrated with last year was that on the deep balls, he would overthrow them so much. You have great weapons like Marvin Mims up there. Just get it close, let him go make the play. And I'm hoping that's what he does this year. Instead of trying to make the perfect throw, like throw it up to your playmakers. I mean, we saw Caleb Williams throw it up to Marvin Mims against Texas a couple of years ago, and look what happened. Okay, so, but I saw Jimmy's comment about the offensive line, the second string. Yeah, struggled obviously. The first team offensive line though seems like they're playing really well together, and so that to me is a big positive. One thing I will say, but this is probably the last thing I'll say, but you know, we were talking about Nwaneri earlier. I don't want to go back to it, but you guys, who's the hottest recruiter on the team right now?
Emmett Jones.
Yeah, Emmett Jones.
Send Emmett Jones in. Close the deal. I'm serious.
Yeah.
Go close the deal, Emmett.
Send Emmett Jones to Lee Summit.
Hey, well, you're right, Jimmy. The area I think OU can't have injury is the O-line.
Yeah, they got to get healthy there.
They have to get healthy.
We need Jacob Sexton back. Obviously, getting him back is tough. He tore his ACL in December. He's making a lot of strides to come back early. But, again, they just that room as a whole, if they can stay healthy, get healthy, I think there's a lot of potential there. We talked about it in the depth chart, like on the 2 deep. Like, there's guys that are not going to be starting that are very capable of being starters. Like, the talent is there. It's just a matter of staying healthy and, avoiding those injuries. That's going to make it where it's not a good offensive line for OU this year.
Yeah, I think if they stay healthy, and who I'm honestly most worried about is the tackles. You know, behind Guyton and Rouse, I mean, you have who? You have Caden Green, but that's a freshman.
Yeah.
And
Jake Taylor.
Jake Taylor.
Schaefer.
Schaefer
He's interior.
He'll be interior probably.
And then Sexton, if he can get healthy, he can play tackle as well. But again, the ACL is still a worry there.
Yeah,
That's not a room that worries me. It's going to worry me though if the injuries persist and if they can't stay healthy. Because if that happens, then that room is a little bit shaky. That's where we don't have that competitive depth at the peak right now. But I think as soon as next year though, we're gonna be back to that level. It's just getting through this year without too many problems is just the biggest key.
Yeah,
and
the freshmen in that room are really making waves. Etho Zeta, he's one that was kind of just again name dropped. One that I did not expect the media days to be getting the shout outs that he did. But again, everyone knows how freshmen are with Bill Beatonbow. They're not going to play. They're going to take at least 1 year to develop there. But the future of the room, like you mentioned, Taylor, is very bright. We just got to get through this year.
yeah, and look, they've got 3 guys that are going to be in the NFL: Walter Rouse, Savion Byrd, Tyler Guyton, and maybe even more. So they definitely have some guys there, some stalwarts at the front. But like Cameron says here, for sure, if the line is struggling, just chunk it over to Petaway on the screen and let the receivers block and let the guy run in space. But yeah, guys, I just want to say thanks for Cameron, Jimmy, Lori. I'm going to miss some people. Dalton, Brian, just the viewers. You guys have been killing it with the comments tonight. We are truly appreciative of all you guys and be a part of the Sooner Surge community. If you haven't subscribed, make sure you hit us up, subscribe, turn on your notifications. Check out Soonersurge.com as we'll be continuing to pour out articles and content here on the YouTube channel. Guys, sleep tight tonight. Don't let the recruiting notes bite. Okay, guys? We'll holler at you next time. Boomer.